Brewster Rhoads, and working my tail off to pass this important levy to help support, and I would argue save, our Cincinnati parks. So I'm here to urge each and every one of you to vote yes on issue 22. Like many of you, I've been a volunteer with our parks. I was on the Parks Foundation board for 4 years, for 15 years on the California Woods Advisory Council. You all, I love our Cincinnati parks. I want to make 4 areas of comment. 1, about our parks. 2, about the need. 3, about what this levy will do. 4, about some of the opposition points and undercut them if I can, hopefully. And number 5, what is at stake in this campaign? And what is at stake for our Cincinnati parks? So number 1, we are so fortunate in Cincinnati to have a world-class urban park system. Highly ranked in America, in fact, considered one of the top 10 parks by the Trust for Public Lands, and rated excellent by that national organization that reviews parks in America. You all sense that, but it's clear that the objective analysis shows that our parks are sources of vibrancy for neighborhoods, for economic development, for health and wellness, and obviously for giving us a way to attract and retain retirees like myself, young people who we are trying to get to come to Cincinnati to be the talented employees to help grow our businesses, and to put us on the map as a competitive city throughout the Midwest and around the country. Parks are key to people's decision about where the heck they live. Okay, let me just explain a couple things. Do you all know that the parks are over 5,000 acres. 10%, more than 10% of the total acreage of Cincinnati are Cincinnati parks or properties managed by our Cincinnati parks. Who would think? We have 75 parks, we have 34 nature centers, nature and natural areas, we have 5 nature centers, we have 16 overlooks, we have 5 major parkways, we have 59 playgrounds that Cincinnati Parks manages, we have the Crone, we have, heaven's sakes, we have Mount Airy Forest. Anybody know how big Mount Airy Forest is? Okay, I'll tell you.
1,600.
It's almost 16.
It's
exactly. It's almost
15.
1,600 acres. Guess how big Central Park in New York is? Anybody know? It's 843 acres. Mount Airy Forest is the largest urban forest or park in the entire country for a city. And we are so fortunate to have that, which also contributes to the tree canopy we have, which is 39% compared to Seattle, which is 23%, and Chicago, which is just 17%. The trees in our Cincinnati parks are key to air quality, to stormwater management, to habitat for animals, to so many other things to just enjoy as well. So a couple of other things. There are 6 million people a year, adults and kids, who make use of our Cincinnati parks. There are 32 park advisory councils, like California Woods, which meet monthly, raise their own money to support the parks, do programming, do volunteer mobilization. We take out one heck of a lot of honeysuckle in California Woods. I'd like you to join us at the next mobilization for that effort. So basically, I just want everybody to understand how excellent they are, how extensive they are, and what an important role they play, also especially for kids, to give kids who are in social media between 8 and 10 hours a day is the latest analysis for kids who are 10 to 16 years old. Scary, which means that kids aren't being active outside, engaged in connection with nature, and that has a nature deficit disorder, now it's an official diagnosis, impact on public health. Okay, so we need to have parks that kids can access and families can use. The need, well, there are 135 buildings that are that are managed and owned by Cincinnati Parks. Guess how old they are? 70 of over half of them are over 70 years old. They were built between 1923 and 1942. Okay, they were WPA projects, civilian conservation projects. Right? They were built to put people to work and to help, help and build up our communities and put people to work during that very difficult time. One of the challenges is there's $55 million in backlog in capital maintenance and improvements, according to the master plan that was updated for the 3rd time since 1907, when our parks were first established. But in 100-year anniversary, 2007, there was a master plan update, the 3rd time they did that, approved by City Council after 2 years of citizen engagement that spelled out what we want to do with our Cincinnati parks. What is the vision for the future? One of the main things that came out of that report is an analysis that we have at that time, $48 million backlog repair, maintenance, and upgrade requirements that are capital. And number 2, that we need to have a dedicated stream of revenue, dedicated, permanent stream of revenue, just like we have for this through the Smale Commission earnings tax, as you recall, that was passed in Cincinnati, 54% of the vote in 1988. That provides now this year $17 million in perpetuity this year, so how much that brings in, to earmark dedicated permanent revenue stream to fix roads and bridges in Cincinnati. Smart. We were smart to do that. The Smale Commission recommended it, tons of community engagement, permanent, dedicated revenue stream in perpetuity to take care of what? Roads and bridges are not going away. They're here forever. Parks are here forever. It's not like we fund it and then we leave it alone and let it die. A permanent need, permanent funding source made sense then, makes sense for infrastructure, it makes sense here for this particular issue. Unfortunately, because the state of Ohio, and I have personal strong feelings from a partisan point of view about the motivation for this, but the current governor led an effort to cut the local government fund and eliminate the estate tax, which nailed Cincinnati revenue from the state. We used to get $60 million to Cincinnati, we now get 12. Think about that, dramatic cuts. Now that also forced every other aspect of city government to be pared back. Cincinnati Parks used to have $4 million a year allocated to it for the capital maintenance fund of Cincinnati Parks. It went down as low as $1.3 million 2 years ago. It is now back up to 2.3, but that's a 47% cut in the last 6 years in the amount of money the city council annually allocates to the parks for maintenance, day-to-day maintenance. That means if a window's broken or if there's a leaky roof, that stuff is fixed. Potholes, fixed. Okay? That is a huge need, and that's why we have a backlog of $55 million. It's a problem. This levy will help dramatically to address that problem. People who are opposing this levy don't have a solution. There is no solution being put forth by folks who are saying vote no on issue 22, and they're not doing anything in the concrete way to propose a solution to deal with this need. So I challenge them to propose a solution. Say, who's going to run the campaign? Who's going to fund it? Who is going to build a political coalition of labor, of the business community, of the Cincinnati Preservation Association, of trail organizations like we have Groundwork, Cincinnati, Mill Creek here in the room, who are working hard to build a trail step by step, foot by foot. I'm on that board as well. Right, Robin?
Yes,
right?
you are.
And for 20 years, we've been working hard to build the Mill Creek Trail and Greenway. This levy will have $5 million earmarked for that trail and the Wasson Way and the Ohio River Trail along the east side of Cincinnati, which will finally connect downtown to the Little Miami Trail, which would connect us to Cleveland. And there's this big gap, and it's about 4 miles, and it's along Eastern Avenue, Riverside Drive. Finally, it makes sense. And then the Ohio River Trail west. So we have an opportunity here with this levy, which there's no funding otherwise to do in any serious way. It could be 20 or 30 years, right, Robin? As opposed to 2 to 4 years building a world-class trail system, which is a huge need. It's another part of the need. And that was identified in the 2007 master plan, and this levy will take care of that. The levy itself, as you know, is a 1 mil levy. It'll cost $35 for $100,000 worth of assessment of a home that's worth $100,000. The average home in this city is assessed at what? You know? $106,000 for the average home assessed value. So it's less than 75 cents a week for the average homeowner, approximately, in order to ensure we have the ability to properly maintain and enhance and improve our Cincinnati parks. That, to me, is one heck of a great deal. This levy will bring in $5.5 million, a quarter of which, 1.7, will annually be put into a separate fund for earmarked for the maintenance, for the capital maintenance of our Cincinnati parks, taking it back up to $4 million where it was and should have and needs to be. That will tremendously improve the ability to take care of every single park within this city will benefit from this issue. So moving right along, finally, broad base of support, I mentioned counter argument you're going to hear, this is a power grab by the mayor. Well, there's checks and balances up the wazoo, more than there would be for an individual park levy, where the money goes just to the park district. Nobody else has any input. No citizen engagement required by law, no checks and balances by city council who has to vote to approve the bonds. This is going to be a way for the mayor to pay off all his political cronies and friends. Again, these checks and balances, you cannot get away with that kind of thing in Cincinnati. Every city, every single community council, every park advisory board, those guys are going to be on this like flies to fly paper. and we'll talk about some more. So what at stake ultimately, I think, is whether we are going to solve a problem to preserve an incredible asset that is helping to drive economic development and talent attraction and retention, to help build and project this city forward in a way that Forbes magazine just yesterday nationally published a story, an article about the vibrancy and renewal of Cincinnati, citing Washington Park as one of the reasons they believe while we are on the march for becoming an even greater city. So I urge your support for issue 22 and look forward to the dialogue with you all. Thank you.